for Monday, November the 8th. We will ask, before we get started with the Pledge of Allegiance, we will ask our attorney, Mr. Chuck Cagle, to make a statement.
Mr. Chairman, under the case of Van Hooser versus Warren County, an attorney who represents a public agency is allowed to take a public agency, the members of that public agency, executive session where there is a pending case or controversy. And this board had a meeting with me prior to the beginning of this meeting, and I will certify to the public and to those who are in attendance that we did not deliberate toward any decision, nor did we make any decisions at that meeting, which is a requirement that those actions are public. We did discuss the pending litigation in the United States District Court, and that's what we discussed. No decisions were made.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Ms. Riley.
Welcome to Franklin Elementary. I'm Ann Riley. I'm the principal here. And now if you'll stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain for a moment of silence. Thank you. Recognitions and good news. We do have one for tonight. I'd like to recognize Dr. Mary Decker, our own Dr. Decker, Franklin Special School District Associate Director for Teaching and Learning, was asked to serve as chairperson of the 2022 Learning Forward Annual Conference to be held in Nashville at Gaylord Opryland in early December 2022. Learning Forward is the only professional association devoted exclusively to those who work in educated professional learning, with the goal of helping its members leverage the power of professional learning to effect positive and lasting change. This is accomplished by showing educators how to plan, implement, and measure high-quality professional learning. Operating under the direction of Learning Forward Conference staff team, the host committee consists of one chairperson, Dr. Mary Decker, and three subcommittees that assist Learning Forward staff in organizing the conference program, publicity, and volunteer assignments. The focus of the host committee is on using their local knowledge to identify regionally appealing program content, leveraging their networks to encourage healthy conference attendance, volunteer participation, creating a welcome and hospitable conference environment. No doubt Dr. Decker and her committee will do this and do it well. Dr. Decker, would you come forward, please? Thank you. Public input. There is a podium for those who wish to speak for public input tonight. Seeing that we have none, we will declare public input closed. Reports, presentations, and discussions, teaching and learning. Dr. Decker.
Thank you, sir. Tonight, the Teaching and Learning Spotlight illuminates leadership meetings and professional learning. The members of the Teaching and Learning team highly value, take quite seriously, and truly relish their role as professional learning, also known as PL, leaders. This PL takes place at a variety of times and locations based principally on the needs and requests of our teachers, staff, and school administrators. The annual Fssd Leadership Retreat, held every June, is a prime opportunity for the results-based, relevant PL, but it can and does also happen throughout the school year. During the October session of the monthly leadership meeting, several TNL members facilitated an interactive presentation they had developed around the work of Dr. John Hattie, known primarily for his meta-research, the largest evidence-based study of its kind, on effect size, which is essentially the measure of the impact on student achievement of educational strategies and interventions. This mini session was a follow-up to a 2017 TNL offering, but the idea to revisit the topic at this particular moment in time was also prompted by the words of our August 2021 keynote speaker, Dr. John Hodge. Hodge highlighted Hattie's findings that the influence of collective teacher efficacy has an extremely high effect size. Several of Hattie's books reference visible learning, the concept that occurs when teachers see learning through the eyes of students, help students become their own teachers and become evaluators of their own teaching. Speaking of collective teacher efficacy, during the Hattie leadership session, school administrators heard directly from Hattie through the magic of video about it, as well as about what the knowledge of visible learning and effect size means to school leaders. In essence, the instructional leader aspect of their position is crucial. Hattie's research showed that schools that constantly worry about their impact and ask about what the nature of that impact is provide the best instruction and learning environment for students. In the leadership session, TNL and the administrators looked at ways to incorporate the knowledge base related to effect size and visible learning into the team teacher evaluation process with the end goal of positively impacting student learning. And who says learning, including professional learning, can't be fun? A key component of the Hattie session occurred when the principals and assistant principals working in school teams participated in an influences draft during which they picked 4 influences to comprise their fantasy effect size team. The competition was keen and spirited. I know you're not surprised about that. No competition at all. And the Jeopardy-like game board, complete with sound effects, heightened the excitement. The concurrent illuminating conversations were a welcomed and wonderful, but not surprising, bonus. Finally, the professional learning continued with the opportunity for the administrators to discuss which influences can be emphasized and which may need to be de-emphasized, and how TNL can best provide support in this work. Further, the school leaders reflected on how they might embed one idea from this leadership session into an initiative that is currently in place at their school. TNL will continue to address Dr. Hattie's research, visible learning, and effect size. Plans are in place to facilitate a similar session at least one school's faculty meeting. High-quality professional learning is ongoing, tailored to educators and, by extension, their students, job-embedded, and most importantly, results-based. Drawing a straight line between educator professional learning and student achievement is the intent of the teaching and learning team. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Decker? Yes, construction report.
Well, you all have the monthly construction report in your packet, and I'll be glad to entertain or try to entertain any questions you may have regarding that. Okay. It was well written then, so
Yes, I want to talk about our COVID protocols and a little bit about the lawsuit, as Mr. Cagle has given information tonight to the board. First, let's go over some statistics. There's a total number of active cases in Williamson County currently of 329. The total active cases in Williamson County 1 month ago, on October the 4th, was 919. 57.76% of Williamson County residents are fully vaccinated. 61.22 have received at least 1 dose of a vaccine in Williamson County. Also, as far as district statistics, they're up a little bit from last week when they were, I think we had 1 positive case, or maybe 2. But as of this afternoon, we have 14 positive cases and 53 exclusions. First, let me mention the court case. As you heard tonight from our legal counsel, the judge really did not limit school boards on their ability to issue or to change mask mandates. So that's the positive thing at this point, and I know it's on appeal, but this board can make decisions according to the judge, federal judge, on decisions regarding masks. We had all anticipated, I'm sure everyone read, or most people have read, the legislation that came out of the special session, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, which once signed, or if the governor does not sign it and doesn't veto it, then it's our understanding after 10 days it does become law. At this point it is not law, but based on the legislation as written, then you will not, school districts will not have the opportunity to issue mandates unless they reach, unless the statistics reach a certain percentage, and based on the criteria, we would not have been in that situation anyway. And there are some other criteria and some accommodation opportunities, but as I said, we anticipated that would become law last week. The 10 days, as we understand it, will be up Wednesday, and at that point, if that does become law, then we have communication ready to go out to have parents and understand that we have to follow state law, which would prohibit us from continuing that mask requirement. I'll answer any questions that you may have regarding those. So let's just, for instance, or for example, if for some reason the governor were to veto that legislation, we don't know when the opportunity for the legislature to override such veto. So if that point comes and the board wanted to have a session to make a change in the mask mandate, that would be okay according to the courts, and it obviously would be okay based on the current legislation, or if it's not passed, it won't be law, or if it's not signed by the governor, or if he just allows it to become law. So there are some opportunities. I wish I could tell you exactly what's going to happen by Wednesday, but I have no idea. Mr. Stillings, you have a question?
Sunset date for our existing policy is January 10th?
10th. But we could, like I said earlier, that could be changed.
Question: if we on Wednesday, if the legislation does become law, then we would communicate with parents that masks would now be optional. Is that what we're communicating?
Yes, it will still be an option for parents. And then there's some accommodations there for students that have special needs and things like that. So.
And do you know if there's any change then if that became law? Would there be any change in how exclusions or quarantines are handled by the health department?
At this point, based on the legislation that we've read, it says that the state commissioner of health would make those rules. And we've not seen any written rules from them yet. So we anticipate that we would not be operating under the same exclusions and the same quarantines that we have had before, because we were operating under the guidelines of a local health. Now the Commission of Health may put some of the same rules in place, but at this point we've not seen anything in writing that would tell us how they would handle quarantines and exclusions. We do know the legislation says the Commissioner of Health Office would make decisions about quarantine. I'm not guessing that that's going to happen by Wednesday. Other questions? We'll keep you apprised. As soon as we hear something, we'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Snow. Approval of board agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the board agenda.
Second? Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Approval of consent agenda. Is there a motion? Newman, Mr. Townsell, discussion. All in favor? Business before the board, Dr. Snowden.
Yes, item number 1 is a policy revision, substitute personnel 5.701. This is the first reading. The revision makes the change in policy as to where certification is reported if a retired teacher substitutes over 120 days in the case that no other qualified personnel are available. With change in state law, that reporting now goes to the Division of Retirement instead of the State Board of Education. We recommend approval of the first reading.
Can I make a motion, because there's only 4 words changed in here, that we pass on first and waive second?
Yes, if you would like to do so.
Okay.
From the administration's perspective.
Barker makes the motion, waive on first, pass on second. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Ms. Bell makes a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Dr. Snowden.
Item number 2 is a policy revision, Director of Schools Recruitment and Selection 5.801. This is a first reading. This revision follows a review after the annual TSBA audit of our policy manual. TSBA has suggested a change in wording on item 4D based on state law stating majority instead of 2/3 vote of membership of the board. Although this nomenclature is the same for a 6-member board, they just recommend putting that or having the language changed. Also updated is the formatting of steps in the selection process and broadening of the wording based on the TSBA model policy. So as we mentioned, a majority of this board is 2/3. But that language, again, when they looked at the policy, they suggested we change it instead of the 2/3, or based on state law stating majority instead of 2/3. We recommend approval of the first reading.
A motion to approve? Ms. Newman makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bell second. Is there any discussion? Not all in favor? Thank you. Dr. Snowden.
Item number 3 is a policy revision, interference, disruption of school activity 6.306. This is also a first reading. The revision is based on TSBA's recommendation, Public Chapter 77, establishes guidelines for principals and teachers to follow when disciplining students, as well as a process for the removal of a student from a teacher's classroom. It also includes an appeal process that a teacher can utilize if the principal denies the teacher's removal request. The new law, the Teacher Discipline Act, impacts several policies that are required by state law. This law will go into effect January 1st of 2022. We recommend approval of this first reading.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve on first reading, or to pass on first and waive second reading.
First, pass on second.
Since it's effective January 1st, 2022.
We would have to abide by the law regardless if we've had a second reading, but yeah, this makes it, I think, is a wise thing to do since it goes into effect, and it's not going to really change. There's not much that, all that was changed was based on state law.
Ms. Bell makes a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Townsell second. Is there discussion?
I know when I read the policy we're going to do next, it talks about the procedure of actually removing a student. This policy is more a request to not have the student in the classroom, is that correct?
That is correct.
Not the actual physical
Right.
removal. And does there need to be anything in this policy? I don't know the state law as obviously as well as you would, about a time frame of removing a student from the classroom. There's no time in here, like needs to be, or is that just completely dependent on each situation?
That's situation
Okay.
dictated.
That'd be probably, that would be more procedure and not policy.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Dr. Snowden.
Item number 4 is a policy revision, safe relocation of students, 6.4082. This is also a first reading. As in 6.306, TSBA has provided language based on Public Chapter 77 to establish guidelines for principals and teachers to follow when disciplining students, as well as a process for the removal of a student from a teacher's classroom. This law is also effective January 1st of 2022. We recommend approval of first reading, and if the board would consider waiving second reading and approving on the first reading.
Your motion is to?
Pass on the first, waive on second.
Okay. Ms. Townsend makes the motion. Is there a second? Parker makes second. Is there discussion? No discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Director of Schools report, Dr. Snowden.
Yes, as we've already given the COVID report, and we continue to monitor that. Our COVID team continues to meet weekly to discuss any related issues or items. As stated last meeting, and we continue to state that we've been very pleased with the low number of positive cases as well as the lower number of exclusions. Career Quest 2021 was held virtually November the 4th. Our 8th graders had a successful day exploring opportunities. We'd certainly like to thank Dr. Kirkpatrick and the teaching and learning team and all the teachers and the school administration for the success of that program. We're very optimistic that next year that program will be able to be held in person. The Williamson Chamber State of the Schools event was held last week. It's always a good opportunity to highlight the great things that are going on in this district. The TCAP scores from the past year, mental health partnership with Mercy, a therapy dog program. Those are just a few of the examples. Of course, our construction projects. So all in all, it was a good opportunity, and we appreciate Williamson Inc. for always hosting both Williamson County Schools and the Franklin Special School District. Be Nice Week is this week. You know, as I stated at the State of the Schools address, that's a philosophy. That's just not a 1 week. We encourage and we hope that we try to conduct and be nice every week. But it's a special week, and we do that every year during this week. And we also have, as I'll mention in a moment, the Veterans Day Parade. And our student Be Nice ambassadors will be marching in that parade. I'm been watching the weather ever since, and I'm a little concerned at the amount of rain that may happen. And I think we've only pulled out in 21 years, we've only pulled out once because of the heavy rain. So I'm hopeful that the rain would hold off instead of having our students try to participate in the inclement weather. But we still got some time before Thursday. The parade will be back on the regular route. As you know, last year it was at Harlansdale, and it was kind of a reverse parade, as they called. This year it's going right down Main Street again, so we're excited about that. And I already mentioned the student ambassadors. We'll also have the combination band from Poplar Grove Middle as well as Freedom Middle. The FIS Bulldog Council will participate. We've got a little issue with the story bus. Found out this morning, late morning, having transmission issues. We hope it will be repaired in time. For those of you board members, I know some of you like to participate and ride the story bus or walk alongside, but we'll keep you posted on the progress of the repairs for the story bus. Board meeting in December, although this has been scheduled, it is tentative on whether or not there will be a need to have that meeting. We will be communicating, Mr. Blair and I, to determine the status of that meeting and have an announcement right after the holidays, Thanksgiving holidays, on whether or not we think we have business to conduct at that December meeting. Also, if you will please let us know about topics for the agenda for January 8th board retreat. We have sent out an invitation to our legislators to be a part of that. The first part of that retreat will be continued training, our facilitation by Derek Young, who This will be a couple hours in training, not 4 hours like we had through Zoom last board retreat. And that will be for board members as well as the leadership team. But then, and we always, of course, have the calendar. And anything else that you would like to have added to that January 8th agenda, just please send that to Carol or to me. And then we listed the conferences and meetings update for you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anything for Dr. Snowden? Dr. Decker, teaching and learning updates?
No, sir, thank you.
Esslinger, finance administration?
Typical HR and financial reports. We are continuing to have a pretty good start to our collections for this year from the sales taxes. Sales tax collection report that's provided to you gives you a month-to-month comparison for the past 3 years. As you can see, the report shows continued double-digit increases over the same collection periods from last year, with November of 2021 collections being 13.9% greater than November of 2020. That's good news.
Good news. Put you under the good news item next time. Thank you, sir. Any announcements from board members?
I just want to remind us that for those who will be participating in the delegate assembly, don't forget. And then I also wanted to express a sincere appreciation for the standing ovation that they gave us at the State of the Schools address. And I also, in addition to that, Matt Largent sent just a heartfelt note of appreciation and specifically gave each one of us that. And it was just very heartfelt, and we received a lot of positive comments about not just our schools, but the work that we do, since this is volunteer, and we're not paid for our services. So thank you very much for that.
Any other board announcements? I too would like to thank Dr. Snowden for a wonderful, wonderful session at the Chamber Education meeting. Did an excellent job. We were well represented, and everything went well. And also Jason Golden from the county did a great job as well. Also, I was able to attend the Mercy dinner the prior Friday night, and Dr. Lee Kirkpatrick had been asked to speak on our partnership with Mercy, and he represented us well and did a great job talking about our partnership with Mercy. So thank Dr. Kirkpatrick for doing that as well. Mr. Newman. November 29th. Anything or anyone else?